So thank to all the presenters for being here. I will introduce you one by one before each of your presentations. And thank you to all the attendees who are following the seminar on streaming. I'm a bit overwhelmed by the number you just said, 200 people that already registered. So we were discussing a few minutes ago that roughly 50% of registered people are from academia and 50% from industry. I think this is clearly a sign of the relevance of the topic that we address in this European seminar. And also, it also reflects the titanic task that here at the Observatory of the University of Barcelona, we are carrying out in order to disseminate our work and attract the private sector. So I want to also thank all the members of the Observatory who started working on organizing this European seminar months ago, even though it's only 2 days. I mean, the work lags for a long time. Especially to you, Laura, Teresa Costa, Marcel Claramunt, Xavier Barea, who is the director, and also all our staff. So the European Seminar on Private Pensions has been designed to conduct comprehensive study on pension system across European countries, as Laura mentioned it, and is part of the activities of the Actuarial and Financial Modeling Research Group led by Professor Claramunt and the Observatory. The Observatory is a research structure within the University of Barcelona that promotes interdisciplinary research and teaching activities in the field of complementary social welfare with the aim of influencing ongoing debate on pension system reform in Europe. So as Laura mentioned, during the next 2 days, we will analyze the public pension system, its sustainability, and the prospects for 6 different countries. And just a quick note about questions. So questions from the audience are more than welcome, but we will ask you that you write your questions on the chat. And then my colleagues here, they will collect your questions and they will give us to us. And then I will ask the questions myself to the presenters on your behalf. So let's start with the first country that we are going to analyze is Greece. And to that end, we have Dr. Fotini Marini, that she will be presenting a joint work with Professor Gabriel Amitzis. So Dr. Marini is the head of the Center for Social Welfare and Inclusion at the Social Administration Research Laboratory of the University of West Attica. She has distinguished research and teaching career at the University of Nicosia, at the Athens University of Applied Science, the National School of Public Administration in Athens, and the Hellenic National Center for Social Research. Dr. Marini is an expert in social security law, policy with a focus on European Union law and policies related to employment, health, social security, social welfare, and inclusion. She's the author and co-author of 8 books and has published in international journals. As a lawyer, she provides research and consulting services to both central government and local authorities on high-level research and policy projects in Greece, Cyprus, and the Balkans. So, Dr. Marini, we are very welcome. Without further delay, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. Greetings from Athens. On behalf of our director, Professor Gabriel Amitzis, and myself, I would like to extend our warmest thanks to the Observatory for their kind invitation to participate to this seminar today. It is indeed a very important and interesting issue for all of us, I suppose. So I would like to begin the presentation with an introduction to our laboratory and our work. So can we see the first slide, please? So we're the Social Administration Research Laboratory based in Athens at the University of West Attica. We're the Greek Center of Academic Excellence in the sector of social policy and administration through our interdisciplinary community of research scholars, practitioners, and policymakers. We promote sound national and comparative research and teaching agendas related to different aspects of the welfare state, including employment, pensions, health and social care, social welfare and inclusion, and housing and migration. We are a member of prestigious international networks active in the thematic areas that we're interested in, those networks include inter alia, the Academic Stand Against Poverty Network, the European Social Network on Social Services, and Housing Europe. And we are always glad to extend our cooperation with our colleagues abroad. So let's just begin with a general reference to the landscape of EU countries' pension systems. As you may all know, EU pension systems in different member states may differ in their special characteristics, such as the length of statutory social insurance, the level of contribution, funding sources, etc. But they tend to include a public and a private component and are organized in three pillars. The first pillar, public, mandatory, statutory pensions, main and supplementary. The second pillar, occupational pensions that supplement the first pillar benefits. And the third pillar, private personal pensions that supplement also the first pillar pensions. So, Mediterranean South, a very important question. Is the first pillar pension the sacred cow of social protection? As you can see on the EU level, in 2022, some 1.9 billion was spent across EU countries on first pillar pensions. We're talking about the 12.2% of EU GDP. And yet, the relevant importance of expenditure on pensions varied considerably between EU countries. In 2022, this ratio peaked in Italy, 15.5% of GDP, followed by France and Greece. Greece is in the top three of expenditure on the first pillar. And that shows just how important the first pillar is for Greece. You can see here that the old age pensions is the basic component of first pillar pensions expenditure for most all countries in the European Union, but you can also see just how important it is as a component to the first pillar for Greece. And here you can also see the first pillar pension expenditure in Greece in billions of euros and as a percentage of GDP in time from 2009 to 2023. Things have not changed considerably. So, what about the second and third pillar pensions in Greece? The pension system in Greece relies heavily on the first pillar, while the second and third pillar have a very limited application, leading to a rather low level of private pension shares in the pension market. You can see that out of the total contributions made to pensions each year, 95% is paid to the first pillar, only 5% to the other two pillars, 1% to occupational funds, and 4% to private insurance funds. And the truth is that financial and other tax incentives are rather scarce. So it is no wonder that Greece ranks last compared to other OECD countries in terms of total assets in pension funds and private retirement savings plans as a percentage of GDP. So, taking into account the unbalanced development of the three pension pillars in Greece, our paper discusses the regulatory and policy framework of supplementary pensions in the Latin brain model, using Greece as the reference national case study. We apply, in principle, the traditional legal research method, which involves analyzing and interpreting relevant national legislation, case law, and legal doctrine about first and second pillar supplementary pensions. So let's start with a basic typology of supplementary pensions as we can see them in Greece. When we talk in Greece about the first pillar supplementary pensions, we're talking about pensions provided by institutions managing social security schemes, which are covered by regulations of the European Union on the coordination of social insurance systems. The second pillar supplementary pensions include pensions provided by institutions for occupational retirement provision covered by the Directive 2016/2341. We're talking about IORPs. And the third pillar supplementary pensions, we're talking about pensions provided by institutions covered by directives of 2009, 2011, 2013, and 2014, especially in private insurance. So, the Greek social security model. The Greek social security model is set up according to general guidelines and principles set by the basic international law instruments ratified by Greece, such as the International Covenant for Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, the European Social Charter, and International Labour Convention of 1951 on minimum standards of social security of ILO. We should say that the system of social security is mentioned by lawyers as the general umbrella with contributory and non-contributory benefits for the universal coverage of the population. So in this respect, social insurance is part of the social security model. You can see that the Greek state has organized the provision of contributory and non-contributory cash benefits, benefits in kind, and services for the protection of the population against specific social risks and contingencies through three distinct systems: the social insurance system, targeting persons active in the labor market; the social assistance system, targeting persons of risk of poverty and exclusion; and the national health system, covering all persons living in the Greek territory. So, focus on the Greek social insurance system. In Greek, we're talking about the Systema Κοινωνικής Ασφάλισης, that's the term. It provides cash benefits and benefits in kind, aiming at the protection of workers, employees, farmers, and self-employed persons from the lack of work-related income due to the classic social risks: healthcare, sickness, old age, employment injury, maternity, disability, and the loss of support suffered by the widow or child as a result of the death of the breadwinner. The social insurance system is indeed the cornerstone of the national social security model, since it plays a crucial redistributive role, ensuring financial security for the vast majority of the population against the basic life cycle challenges. Here you can see how the policy context of first pillar pensions is structured. You see that the system includes the main pension. The main pension is provided by the National Social Insurance Fund, called EFCA, Electronic National Social Insurance Fund. And the main pension is a sum of two components. There is an earnings-related component, a benefit called contributory pension, and a non-earnings related component called national pension. We will analyze afterwards how they're being funded and how exactly they're being organized. Next to the main pension, we have supplementary pensions. And here we have two types of benefits, and it depends on the generation that we belong to. Now, for the old generation of insured population, people who had entered the labor market until 31st December 2021, we have pay-as-you-go benefits provided by EFCA. For the new generation of insured population, those insured who were born after the 1st January of 2004 or insured who ended after the 1st January of 2022, we have the notional defined contribution benefits provided by the newly established institution, which is called TECA, the Hellenic Auxiliary Pensions Defined Contributions Fund. So let's see how it works with the main pension. The main pension, as we said before, has a contributory and a non-contributory component. About the earnings-related component, the contributory pensions, you can see here that it is financed by contributions. For employees, the contribution is 20%, 6.67% is paid by the insured, and 13.33% by the employer. For freelancers, self-employed, and farmers, contributions are adjusted according to the insurance category selected by the insured himself. The insured has specific options, and he can choose. So the average amount of the benefit is €802 per month. Just keep in mind that this is the full amount. And in order to access this full amount, as a rule, we need either age of 62 years old and contribution period of 40 years, or an age of 67 and contribution period of 15 years. The non-contributory component of the main pension now, it is a non-earnings related benefit financed by the public budget. It is not means tested, but the access to this benefit is linked with access to the contributory pension in combination with residence requirements. 15 years of residence in Greece is required, and the access to the full man requires 40 years of residence. The standard amount of benefit is 436.69 euros per month, but this is the full amount, the top ceiling. What about the administrative context of the main pensions of the first pillar? Until 2016, we had 4 social insurance funds: ICAITAM for employees, the vast majority of the insured population; OAE for the self-employed; ETA for a selected group of professionals, mainly scientists like doctors, engineers, and lawyers; and OGA for farmers and agricultural workers. But in 2016, we had a major reform. May 216, in the context of the third economic adjustment program, a major pension reform enshrined in law number 4387 of 2016 led to the integration of all aforementioned funds into one. It was called the National Social Insurance Fund, EFCA, at the time, and in 2020 it was renamed Electronic National Social Insurance Fund, EFCA. So EFCA is a legal body under public law. You can see its site, and is supervised by the Ministry of Labour and Social Security. So the main pension is supplemented by supplementary pensions of the first pillar. And I told you before that we have 2 types of supplementary pensions depending on the generation of the insured. So let's see first the pay-as-you-go supplementary pensions of the first pillar. They are provided due to old age, disability, and death. They're granted only to persons affiliated with the National Social Insurance System until the 31st of December of 2021. The coverage is compulsory only for a specific social professional group. It's not for the whole population of the insured. Doctors, engineers, farmers are not entitled de jure to first pillar supplementary pensions. And all these pay-as-you-go supplementary pensions are granted by EFCA, which is also competent, as we said before, for the payment of the first pillar main pension. Persons who satisfy eligibility conditions for the pay-as-you-go supplementary pensions of the first pillar are entitled to a monthly supplementary pension on an average amount of 201 euros per month. The benefits are funded by contributions paid by employers and employees and calculated according to a pay-as-you-go national defined contribution system. The amount of pension paid must be entirely linked to the pensioner's age. The calculation of the old age pension, as you can see, a whole life annuity is used, taking into account the transfer of pension rights to assignees. For the calculation of disability pensions, a proper age annuity for each case is used, and whole life annuities are recalculated every 3 years so that they can keep up with the change in life expectancy. Now, the second type of supplementary pensions of the first pillar, defined contributions, supplementary pensions, it is a newborn scheme, and it is reserved, as you can see, for specific categories, for specific generation of insured. When we're talking about compulsory coverage for defined contributions, supplementary pensions, we're talking about all those born after January 1st, 2004. All those who undertook insurable employment in Greece for the first time as of January 1st, 2022, and that includes people who had worked before but that were working in other countries, but first undertook employment in Greece after January 1st, 2022. and all those who acquired an insurance status for the first time as of January 1st, 2022, which until that date would have been subject to auxiliary insurance of EFCA, the first-time pay-as-you-go scheme. There is also a possibility for a voluntary coverage for all persons who are up to 35 years of age and who are exempt from mandatory auxiliary insurance and opt to be insured with TECA. Also, all persons born after January 1st, 1987, who are insured with EFCA Auxiliary Pension Branch, the pay-as-you-go benefits, but opt to transfer to the defined contribution supplementary pensions. So, this type of supplementary pensions are provided by a newborn social insurance fund. It's the Auxiliary Pensions Defined Contributions Fund, TECA. It was established by Law 4826 of 2021. We're talking about a legal body under public law, supervised by the Ministry of Labour and Social Insurance. So, how does that work? Persons who satisfy eligibility conditions are entitled to a monthly supplementary pension. Contributions are 6% of gross earnings, 3% for the employer and 3% for the employee. They're credited to each insured person's individual account, which is always accessible through the MyTeca platform. The capital comprising the accumulated contributions is invested, and the returns are once again credited to each insured person's individual account. And at the end of a person's work life, the accumulated capital, the sum of contributions and returns, translates into a lifelong monthly auxiliary pension. So, contrary to other EU member states, Greece does not have a long tradition in the occupational pension field and second pillar, since until the beginning of 2000s, social partners were not allowed to regulate pension issues through collective bargaining. More specifically, national legislation prohibited the creation of second pillar funds through collective labour agreements. We had Law 1902 of 1990, Article 14, which stated that collective labour agreements should not include provisions that could lead to the creation of occupational funds or accounts for the provision of pensions or lump sum benefits financed by employers. So, social partners were not allowed to include provisions affecting pension issues or violating general public social insurance policies in collective labour agreements. And in this context, a very, very small, major, small margin of maneuver existed for social partners. So, when did it all begin? The establishment of a second pillar pension regime in Greece was only achieved in view of the directive of 2003 on the activities and supervision of institutions for occupational retirement provision. This directive was the inspiration for the Greek legislator. So we had for the first time a relevant law, law number 3029 of 2002, Article 7 provided for the creation and operation of the so-called second pillar funds or occupational funds. In Greek, they're known as Tamia Επαγγελματικής Ασφάλισης, TEAS. These are private non-for-profit legal entities providing supplementary benefits for old age, death of the breadwinner, disability, employment injury, sickness, and unemployment. So, how did the second pillar develop? The great bulk of second pillar occupational supplementary pensions is provided by private non-for-profit legal entities known today as optional occupational insurance funds or TEPAs. They fall under the scope of the Directive of 2016, known as the ARPO 2 Directive. These funds are established for the coverage of employees by companies or professional groups or cross-sectoral groups through an agreement between employers and employees on the condition that interested companies or professional cross-sectoral groups have a minimum of 100 persons to be insured, and for the coverage of self-employed independent professionals and farmers by their representative associations on the condition again that interested unions have a minimum of 100 members to be insured. During 2019-2023, this kind of institutions in Greece have increased at a 50% rate. In September 2024, where we have the last available data, there were 27 of these institutions active in various sectors, such as the public sector, shipping, IT, insurance, healthcare, banking, etc., with a total of almost 58,000, 1% of them being EU moving citizens. And yet, despite this rapid increase that you see, the Greek occupational pensions ecosystem has still very low rates against two critical indicators that make it lag behind compared with other EU member states. As you see, the ratio of employee coverage by occupational insurance benefits in Greece is below 5%, and the ratio of total assets of existing funds as a percentage of GDP is just 1%. Here you can see the major stakeholders of the second pillar in Greece according to the date they were established. And here you can see how they evolved in terms of establishment of new funds and in terms of the evolution of the value of their assets for the period 2004-2024. So, what about the directive regulating function of these funds on a European level, how it was transposed in the Greek legal order? We had two attempts for transposition. The initial transposition was with law number 4680 2020. And then we had a retransposition with a more recent law 5078 of 2023. So, what is the current legal landscape? Provisions 1 to 99 and 103 to 109 of the new law 5078 of 2023 currently regulate the occupational retirement framework in Greece, focusing on the following areas. These are the priorities set by the law as we can see it. Revision of these funds' establishment, organization, and supervision model through the retransposition of the directive. A possibility to establish multi-employer occupational funds. The radical change in the taxation of private complementary retirement savings. And the progressive assimilation of non-profit occupational funds with for-profit life insurance undertakings providing group pension insurance policies. These priorities create specific legal challenges, which both the academic community and the second pillar stakeholders find highly problematic. First of all, we see a tightening of retirement eligibility conditions of occupational funds members. We also see an introduction of disproportionate administrative burdens for the establishment and operation of these funds. This law makes it really, really hard. We also see imposition of heavy taxation on these funds' benefits. And last but not least, a violation of the fundamental principle of a level playing field between the 27 non-for-profit occupational funds and the 68 for-profit life insurance undertakings which provide group insurance pension policies. As you can understand, this has created quite a commotion in the second pillar stakeholders ecosystem. Their union, the Hellenic Union of Institutions for Occupational Retirement Provision, ELETEA, you can see their site here for further information, acting as the national umbrella organization for second pillar stakeholders in Greece, has already undertaken 2 judicial initiatives. It has submitted a complaint to the European Commission focusing on the breach of the 2016 directive by the new law of 2023. And it has also filed 2 applications for annulment of relevant administrative circulars before the Council of State, which is a supreme administrative court in Greece, based on grounds of excessive power and breach of law by reference to the EU directive and the EU Charter of Fundamental Rights. So, key conclusions. Contrary to other European countries, Greece insists on linking supplementary insurance coverage mainly with first pillar public and mandatory schemes, since these schemes provided, as we said before, by EFCA and the newly established TECA, guarantee access to retirement supplementary benefits to at least 75% of the labour market and cover almost all key social professional groups. Only 4% of the labour market is affiliated with voluntary occupational funds. Which are the factors hindering second pillar pensions in Greece? Well, first of all, we should refer to the complex socio-economic conditions, especially since the 2010 crisis. It was not easy for the country. We're still trying to get back on our feet. And we should also take into consideration the structure of the Greek labor market. 99.9% of all enterprises are small and medium enterprises, accounting for 87% of employment in enterprises. We also should refer to a very important lack of awareness among policymakers, social partners, public opinion, and the media about the advantages of second pillar pensions for safeguarding the financial resilience of the population. And to that, in that context, we can see a perpetual strategic focus of all national policies on the first pillar supplementary pensions. We can also observe negative attitudes of social partners towards the second pillar pensions, which are often regarded as tools leading to the privatization of public benefits. You can imagine that the situation for the third pillar pensions is even worse on that account. And we can also observe limited understanding of the population regarding the value of collective or even personal private pension coverage. And of course, as if that was not enough, we have the serious obstacles created by the law of 2023 transposing the 2016 directive. I have here a selected bibliography for the Greek case for all those who may be interested, and I would like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marini, for your very nice presentation. Very clear, very neat slides. Thanks so much. I don't know if there are any questions from the audience. I encourage you to write them on the chat, and then I will proceed to communicate that to our speaker. So if not questions, I have one question. Then I will ask while the attendees think about. So you've been mentioning in your last slides all these challenges, no, that you are facing, and I was wondering, so how the information is being communicated to people, or if there are any strategies that are being developed by the Greek government to try to communicate people, individuals, workers, what the advantages of these new pension schemes, this second pillar. in a way to try to convince them or to provide them enough information so they can be aware of the importance of this new paradigm?
That is a very interesting question, and it is linked to the traditional focus on first pillar supplementary pensions. Traditionally, governments focus their policies on the first pillar supplementary pensions. So communication strategies also focus on the first pillar supplementary pensions. So we can all see, let's say, communication strategies for second and third pillar private pensions. But I think it goes a little bit deeper because information has to do also with the financial literacy of the people, because we can see that sometimes when they don't have the right level of financial literacy, they may not understand what it means for someone to invest their contributions. Just how safe could that be? How does that work? And could it really help me get to a higher level of benefits if I choose this? So I think that this is not just about the information, this is also about the financial literacy of the public. And I would say that it is surprising what is happening in Greece because during the financial crisis, we practically watch our public pension system nearly collapse. And yet, there is a very deep-rooted trust to that public pension system and a great fear to go outside of it.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think it's very interesting you mentioned this term, the financial literacy. No, in fact, here at the observatory, where we are working currently on trying to measure this financial literacy across countries. And I don't know, perhaps I don't know if you have standard measures that you can use in Greece or any study that can try to focus on this financial literacy of individuals.
There are colleagues who are working on it, and they usually focus more on new generation, teenagers and young students who can understand and who are entering economic life. But I think that this is a very, very important field to work on. I think it's something that not even the European Union has strongly focused on yet. So, yeah, a good idea to work on.
Yeah, no, it's also here also the focus on young people, but sometimes we find old people that say, no, I had my work a lot for many years. Now I don't want this to change. No,
and I want someone else to worry about it.
Yeah.
I want someone else to calculate, to do the job. And then when I'm not happy with the benefits, I can be mad at the person I held responsible for it.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so thanks so much. Very
Thank
interesting.
you.
I don't know if we have any questions from the audience. Yeah, we have a question. Let me try to read it for you. Okay, the question is, in terms of financing the pensions, all the first pillars seems not to be, sorry, I repeat. In terms of financing the pensions, all the first pillar seems not to be only in pay-as-you-go. Globally, what is the proportion between pay-as-you-go and fully funded pensions, first and second pillars together? So what's the proportion between pay-as-you-go and fully funded pensions, first and second pillar together? More.
The question wants global.
See, globally, so I guess putting everything together, all pillars. So what's the proportion?
I'm afraid
and...
I don't have the answer to that. I could answer on our national context, but global, I'm afraid I cannot
No, I mean
answer that.
I think at the Greek context. I mean, I understand the question.
Yeah, the contributions of 95% go to the first pillar, and 5% go to the supplementary. The thing is that we don't have enough, let's say, information yet about the defined contribution pensions, because it's a very new scheme.
Okay. Thank you. And there's a second question. Let me read it to you. So the less importance of second pillar, can it have a cost in the low profitability of this kind of labor complementary pension funds because they have a prudent risk investment policy to reduce the possibility of bad news about profitability rates of funds of pillar 2?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yes. The less importance of second pillar, can it have a cost in the low profitability of this kind of labor complementary pension funds because they have a prudent risk investment policy to reduce the possibility of bad news about profitability rates of funds of pillar 2? So if the less important second pillar, yes.
So the question is, if the fact that they're less important has to do with the fact that they don't follow a prudent investment policy. Is that the question?
Because they have I think it's the opposite, because it's so prudent risk investment, so to reduce the possibility of bad news about profitability rates.
They do have a prudent investment policy, and they're very strictly regulated and supervised. The thing is that the people don't understand it, and the policymakers remain relatively hostile, or at least, let's say, they think that the first pillar supplementary pensions are so important, such an investment priority, that they don't really focus on second pillar. That's the thing. That's the essence.
Okay, thank you. And another question. The new first pillar for young people is about 60% of contribution share. This amount will be received plus first pillar 1.
Which amount will be received?
So this amount, so the new first pillar for young people is about 6% of contributions share. This amount will be received plus first pillar 1.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And that's what makes it, and that's what makes it so hard, as you understand, to invest on second pillar as well.
Yeah.
Second pillar becomes too expensive. And as I said, in Greece, we have small and medium enterprises. So imagine what it means for the employers and the employees to have to extra pay for second pillar. That was a very good question. Yeah, right to the point.
Fourth question. So which is the replacement rate in Greece? Is the percentage that the retirement pension represents of the last salary before retirement?
Sorry, let's go again.
Which is the replacement?
There are long questions, so
yeah, I get. Which is the replacement rate in Greece? Is it the percentage that the retirement pension represents of the last salary before retirement?
Yes, about 80%.
80%. Okay.
Average.
Okay. So it depends. I guess it depends on the income.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I don't know if there are any further questions. Okay, if not, thank you, Dr. Marini. Great presentation. Thanks for addressing all the questions.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure to have you here. And then we will move to next presenter. Thanks so much.
Thank you.